Hello, everyone. So, again, we are back with a very new, different topic, and that is our human female reproductive system. So, basically, this topic of previous lecture में हम लोगों ने male reproductive system के पूरे physiology and anatomy इन सब के बारे में स्टडी किया था. So today we are going to discuss about this human female reproductive system in detail. All right. So let us start with our lesson now. So basically, let me just give a brief idea about the platform that we are dealing with, and that is Perceiv3D live classes. So जिसमें हम 3D models को use करते हैं for for the entire content revision of your biology of your 11th and 12th standard, that makes your learning very effective, very efficient, and that improves your concentration, improves your concept retention, and also minimizes the cognitive load as well. और इसका जो motive है हमें यही है कि we have to do it and we have to learn it as well. So this is all the thing. This is how the live interactive classes goes on, if I'll have to say. So इसमें दोनों ही चीजें चल सकती हैं. That means this is the live class of the video, which you can see above here, which is going on over here. All right. And this is basically the 3D interactive interface for the student. तो ये इतना efficient and इतना unique होता है that on one hand you're going to listen to the tutor regarding the live class that is being going on, and apart from that you can also have an interactive interface. The student can have their interactive interface as well. So this is the uniqueness of this platform, and you will be getting additive effects, or you can say additive advantage rather, of a lot of things. Like you can you're benefited with basically 3D interactive notes. Then there is auto reader mode, and all the notes can be in your pocket. This means that whatever the topics or whatever the labeling parts or whatever the things are there in the 3D models, those comes with a full description over here. So those descriptions helps you in memorizing the content very, very easily. And at any point of time, whether you are outside, whether you are inside your home, at any point of time, you can revise all those things in a very, very convenient way. All right. So this is all about it. And this is the things that we discussed. Like means you will be having the short notes and labels as well. And of course, it becomes interactive for the student. So basically, we will be having a 75 days of crash course in the name of DISSECT NEET Biology. And it's for the target of 2022. That means for your NEET examination of 2022, basically. All right. So you will be having all these things in one platform. This means that you will be having your class 11th and 12th syllabus to be completed on hand. Then daily life classes will be there. Notes will be already provided to you. Then physical notes and materials will also be provided. Strategy and guidance will itself be provided in the lectures. And of course, 20 plus mock papers will be there for your practice. So this will be done by two teachers. So myself, Ankita Ma'am, and the other ma'am is there. That is Shushmita Ma'am. So we both are going to take up these 75 days of crash course. All right. So let's move ahead with our topic now. So this was just a small introduction. Now, so yeah. So here comes your model of the female reproductive system. So basically you can see कि ये basically human female reproductive system को represent कर रहा है, but it is with the female skin actually. All right. तो आपको दिख सकता है, if I just maximize this model a little bit over here, so you can have that the idea that the female reproductive system is actually localized, or it is inside the abdominal or the pelvic region, you can say. All right. And the mammary glands are also a category, they are also included in your female reproductive system, but they are actually the accessory glands that has been a part of. All right. So here we can see basically, here we can see that the location is primarily your lower abdominal region. So this is in the lower abdominal region of the female body. So this is the entire female reproductive system location we have seen. All right. Now, let us just move ahead with the main reproductive system. Just okay, so this comes up as our model of the female reproductive system. So ये दिख रहा है आपको that this entire female reproductive system which you can see over here basically has a different components. तो हम लोग इसमें पहले तो different components को study करेंगे. I'll be telling you all the different components in detail now. So let me brief you first with the labelings part, and then we are going to see those labelings in the individual components. All right. So a female reproductive system basically consists of a number of component, जिसमें जो सबसे पहला important component होता है वो होता है ovary का, which is considered to be as the female sex organ that is going to produce the female sex gamete, ovum, or the secondary oocyte, you can say. So this is the case. And if I just if we can use like highlighter tool to like highlight this part, so you can see it looks like this. All right, so this is something like this. So this is your ovary, which is which is the main female sex organ. Now, apart from ovary, the main important part is basically your fallopian tube. And if I just like move, or if I just move this model a little bit like this, you can see over here. So this is a kind of a cross section that you can see over here like this. All right. So this becomes your ovary, and this is your infundibulum, or you can say fallopian. So fallopian tube is primarily divided into three distinct components. Actually, this is your fallopian tube. I'll write this fallopian tube over here. All right, this is your fallopian tube. Now the fallopian tube is primarily divided into three distinct components, and that is infundibulum, ampulla, and isthmus. So if I just move this model a little bit like this, so you can see this one is the ovary, and that one is the fallopian tube that we have seen. So here I am going to label it out. So this one is your infundibulum. Then this becomes your ampulla. And this ultimately becomes your isthmus. So these are basically the three distinct components that is found in case of this fallopian tube. So these are the three members of the fallopian tube. All right. Now, very unique, and I can just show you the individual component again. We need to see that part first. So you can see over here, like if we need to slice out like this. Yeah. So this region which you can see over here, the colored region which you can see, that is representing basically this one. This is basically representing your infundibulum, ampulla, and isthmus. And if I just slice out this part like this. So this is the region through which you can have a knowledge of the categorizations, three categorizations. All right. Now, so that is the case. So we have seen the ovary and the fallopian tube part. Now, the very next important organ is basically your, now these structures which you can see over here, these are called as mesenteries. These are your mesenteries, all right? And mesenteries are a kind of mesodermal cells which is going to connect this ovary to that of the uterus, you can see over here. All right. So it is going to connect this ovary with that of the uterus. So we can just, like, again, you can see this, that we have used this isolation tool. So it basically looks like this one. All right. So it is the mesenteries. All right. Then this part, this region becomes your uterus. The main important part for it is, uterus is one such component which is meant for blastocyst implantation. This is primarily meant for blastocyst implantation. तो जो fertilization होता है वो आपका यहाँ पे होता है. This means that your ampulla region. So ampulla is the site of fertilization. All right. Like this. This is the site of fertilization. While, remember, uterus is the site of blastocyst implantation. So this is the site for blastocyst implantation. All right. So the whatever the product or the zygote which is being formed here, it will travel over here to here. There are various stages: morula, blastula, blastocyst, and all those stages, and ultimately it is going to be implanted over here, like this. So this is the journey that goes on. All right. तो हम लोगों ने ओवरी देख लिया, मिजेंट्रीज देख लिए जो कि वॉल होता है, हम लोगों ने फेलोपियन ट्यूब देख लिया, ऑल राइट, एंड हम लोगों ने यूट्रस देखा. Now, one thing which is again very, very important in all these parts is that you can see a bulged region over here. So this is considered to be as the fundic region. So there's a slight bulging region of the uterus, or you can say slight bulged portion. So this is considered to be as a fundic region. So we can like just again, if I have to show this part with this one, this is basically not this one, but this region, if I have to show, like this region. So this is basically, this becomes basically your fundic region. That is the bulged portion of the fallopian tube. All right. Now, so these are the things. And again, uterus is very, very important because uterus has the presence of 3 wall layers. Uterus is important because it has the presence of 3 wall layers that is prominently being found. And that is called perimetrium. And each layer is having its own importance. You will be very surprised to know that each wall, rather I'll just show you in the model itself. That will be convenient. I just flip. So we are going to see this entire model in different colors. Yeah. You can use colors. Let me show you individually. So this layer which you can see over here, this outer layer which you can see, that means this one. This is basically your perimetrium of the uterus. This is the outermost layer of the uterus, which usually consists of your thin-walled, epidermal tissues. So this is usually thin wall, and this is the outermost layer of the uterus. Now, again, if we can just, yeah, if I just slice out this part, yeah. So this layer which you can see over here, that means this one, this indicates your myometrium. So perimetrium is basically the first layer and myometrium is your second. All right. I will also individually label all the components. All right. So this is your myometrium, which you can see over here. And if, again, we are going to see the inner component. So this inner component, which you can see over here, like if I just isolate this part of this one, which you can see. So this indicates your inner layer. So this becomes your inner layer like this. This one is your endometrium. So the three important layers of uterus that are being found is the perimetrium, myometrium, and the endometrium. And these two are very, very important because this myometrium is basically, this is one such layer that undergoes cyclical changes during menstrual cycle. So this is important because it undergoes, this myometrium is basically responsible for implantation. This promotes for the implantation, or you can say also it is responsible for, just a second, I'll just label it again. This is your myometrium. So this is one such layer that exhibits strong contraction during the delivery of the baby. Strong contraction during delivery of the baby. So that's why this is, this layer is made of thick muscles. Delivery of baby in the pregnancy, at the end of the gestation period, you can say. And this one, which we have labeled it to be as your endometrium. So this endometrium is basically your innermost layer. So this is also thick and this is also thick. Both these layers are thick in nature. This endometrium, this layer undergoes cyclical changes during menstrual cycle. This undergoes cyclical changes during menstrual cycle. So these two layers are very, very important. It has been asked in your examination a couple of times. The functions of these layers are very, very important. All right. So this is the thing that we have seen. Now, if we again just bring back all the components, so like this. So we have seen the different components, like we have seen the ovary, the fallopian tube with the three important components. Then there is uterus. Then there is your fundic region we have seen. Then we have seen the mesenteric parts over here, like this. We have seen this mesenteric parts. Then we have seen the uterus component, the different uterus component, perimetrium. Then this becomes your myometrium and this becomes your endometrium. So we have seen all these components. All right. Now, after the uterus comes a very, very important organ, and that is called, if I just flip this model like a little bit over here, just minimize it. So the next important organ is basically your cervix. So this part, which you can see, this colored part, which you can see over here, like this. All right. So this indicates your cervix. Cervix is a kind of a canal, basically. It's a canal that that is followed by, or uterus is basically followed by this cervix only, that provides a passage for the for the delivery of the baby as well, or for any of the changes that is taking place during the menstrual cycle. In सब में वो काम करता है. So this is your cervix. So cervix is basically related to cervix. There are two terminologies. One is called as the cervical canal and the other is called as the birth canal. So it can be your cervical canal or it can either be your birth canal. सर्विक्स से जो रिलेटेड होते हैं ये दो तरीके के कैनाल्स हो सकते हैं, ठीक है. नाउ सर्वाइकल कैनाल इज बेसिकली द पैसेज ऑफ द सर्विक्स. दिस इज यूजुअली योर सर्विक्स का जो सिर्फ पैसेज होगा उसको हम सर्वाइकल कैनाल बोलेंगे, है ना. एंड बर्थ कैनाल इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ सर्वाइकल कैनाल along with vagina. ये इंपॉर्टेंट है. दिस इज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ सर्वाइकल कैनाल along with the vagina or vaginal orifice. And where is the vagina? So the vagina lies over here. This becomes your vagina. तो जो कि birth canal के component में आएगा. So how this means proceedings has done. So uterus leads to cervix, cervix leads to vagina, and the opening of the vagina, if I'll tell you, all right, like again, if I show all the components. So this section which you can see over here, this opening which you can see over here, this is called as vaginal orifice, which is your opening of vagina, also called as vulva. तो ये जो vaginal orifice होता है जिसको हम vulva बोलते हैं, this is your opening of vagina. Yeah. So this is the case. So we have seen the entire different components of the female reproductive system along with the different functions as well, है ना. तो इसमें हम लोगों ने we have started with your uterus ovary part जो कि main female sex organ होगा, leading to up to the vulva or the uterus. We will also be dealing with your accessory glands, that means your mammary glands. All right, so we'll be talking about this. So let's move on to the next slides. Now, so let's just take a quick recap of whatever the components that we have seen and studied. All right, so you can see over here that the female reproductive system, it consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviduct. Oviduct here has been written. So oviduct is also known as fallopian tube. This oviduct is also called as fallopian tube. I have used the term fallopian tube. So the synonym of fallopian tube is oviduct only. So do not get confused with this terminology. It is the synonym basically. All right. Now, so we have seen the ovaries, and ovaries are usually in pair. So we have seen in this part as well. So you can see they are in pairs. So fallopian tube and ovaries are here found in pairs. 1, 2. This is the first pair, and this one, and this component, which you can see over here. This one. This is your second important organ of the female reproductive system, which is your pair of the fallopian tube. Like this. Clear? Now, moving ahead. So these are found in pairs. Then the third important component becomes your uterus over here. Then there is a cervix. Then vagina we have seen. Then external genitalia. So external genitalia is basically your vulva part, vaginal orifice, and all those things. We will be discussing this in detail, all right, in the coming lessons, or rather in the coming slides. So yeah, we will be talking about the pair of mammary glands and Bartholin glands as well. Now about the Bartholin here gland, let me tell you about Bartholin glands over here. Bartholin gland is one such gland which is considered to be as the homologous of bulbourethral gland. You know, this is one such gland which is equivalent to, or which is equivalent in function, you can say. So this is homologous to the bulbourethral gland. Bulbourethral gland, if you people remember, then it is equivalent to the bulbourethral gland which is found in case of male reproductive system, MRS, and whose function was to secrete the whose function was basically to produce secretions, alkaline secretions, so that semen can be formed. All right, so remember this. Sometimes this has been asked also in the examination, so this is very, very important. Now, ovaries location, the locations is usually in the pelvic region, and that is inside the abdominal cavity. All right. So the very important point in this part is that in this point to figure out is that you can see that in case of the male reproductive system, if you people remember, the male reproductive system, that means the main part, which is testis and your scrotum, sorry, testis and your penis and all those things, that was ultimately located outside the abdominal cavity. But here the ovaries are found completely inside the abdominal cavity. So this is the one basic difference which is found in case of your male and female reproductive system. So this is also very, very important over here. All right. Now, ovaries are the primary female sex organs, producing ovum as the female gamete. Apart from this, they also produce hormones which are called ovarian hormones. So this we will be discussing in detail. Ovarian hormones means hormones like progesterone, hormones like estrogen, all these are the ovarian hormones. All right. So this basically includes your progesterone. Then there is estrogen and all those things. Clear? Now, length is usually 2 to 4 centimeter, and each ovary is basically covered up by a thin epithelium, which is called as the ovarian stroma. So it is the covering which you can say over here is basically the ovarian stroma. Now, ovarian stroma has the presence of two parts. It is basically divided into two parts: the cortex and the medulla region, basically the peripheral cortex and the inner medulla part. Like if I have to show over here, let me just show you the section here itself, or rather, I'll wait. Hmm. It's not. That has to be shown in your ovary cross section. Yeah. So this part which you can see over here, this is considered to be at the peripheral cortex and the inner medulla. So that part I need you people to show. So these blood vessels which you can see over here, this is basically the cross section of the ovary, all right. And the blood vessels which you can see over here, these are basically the blood vessels, all right. So this comprises your ovarian medulla. This is your ovarian medulla. And this portion, peripheral portion in which the entire process of oogenesis takes place, this is your the ovarian cortex part. So that's why the entire stroma means the entire section. All right. So this becomes your ovarian stroma. Ovarian cortex. Because ovarian stroma is divided into two of them. Both are the components of stroma, ovarian stroma. All right. So this is the division and distinction which you can see. Now let us just go back. Now, okay. So we were discussing about this part. It is basically divided into two distinct components. Now, coming to the female accessory duct. Now, female accessory duct, it basically consists of oviduct. Oviduct means your fallopian tube, uterus, and vagina. We will be discussing all these things. We have discussed it actually. All right. So, fallopian tube, each oviduct is around 10 to 12 centimeter long and extending from the periphery to the ovary of the uterus. So, basically, fallopian tube is one such component that connects the ovary with that of the uterus. So again, if I just, you can see over here, we can use this part. So you can see like this is your fallopian tube. So if this is your fallopian tube, so this is connecting the ovary with that of the uterus, है ना? तो इसीलिए इसको इट्स अ कनेक्टिंग ट्यूब बोलते हैं, जो कि ओवरी को यूट्रस को कनेक्ट करके रखता है. ऑलराइट. नाउ वन थिंग व्हिच हैज बीन which is actually very very important in the first component of the fallopian tube is fallopian tube का जो पहला component होता है ना, I just flip this model a little bit like this. So fallopian tube का first component is your infundibulum. So this becomes your infundibulum. Infundibulum basically इसके edges को अगर आप देखोगे, if you see the edges, that means this portion which you can see over here, and if we can just slide this one like this. All right, again. So this portion which you can see, this is considered to be as the Fimbri. So Fimbri is basically a component of the infundibulum, that means the distal end of the infundibulum, which are having finger-like projections. So you can see that this is having basically finger-like projections. So these finger-like projections are these Fimbri, which are having finger-like projections. They are primarily meant for collecting the ovum during the ovulation process. So their function is to collecting or to collect ovum after ovulation. Ovulation is basically the release of the ovum from the ovary. All right. So since it is in direct connection with the, since this infundibulum, you can see that this is in direct connection with this ovary. So whatever the ovum that will be released by this ovary, it will come directly in contact with this Fimbri itself. So this is the function, one of the important functions. All right. Now, again, we will move back to the same, like, previous slide, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So we were here, that infundibulum. Infundibulum, funnel-shaped part closer to the ovary, finger-like projections called Fimbri, present at the edges of infundibulum and helps in the collection of the ovum after ovulation. Now, this is very, very important. All right. Then comes your ampulla, wider part where the site of, it is the site of fertilization that I've already told you, and the isthmus part, which is the narrow lumen-like structure that is ultimately going to join the uterus. So this we have all seen it in the model itself. All right. Now, just a second. So we have seen all those parts. Now, the next important point is to note is that we have seen the perimetrium, myometrium, and the endometrium component. All right, and we have seen the function as well. All right, so this is basically related to the, this function is basically related to your myometrium, which is responsible for exhibiting the stronger contraction during the delivery of the baby. And endometrium is a glandular layer, so it will undergo cyclical changes during the menstrual cycle. So these two functions are very, very important and to be noted. Then we have seen the cervix as well, having the cervical canal and birth canal. This we have already discussed. All right. Now, uterus, yes. So the uterus part has been given over here, basically. So uterus is basically the site of implantation. Implantation means the site of blastocyst implantation that we have already seen. So it is also considered to be as womb, and the shape is inverted pair. So you can, so basically, if I just like, or wait, you can see the shape of this uterus. That means this part, this component is basically considered to be as the inverted pear shape. So this has also been asked in your examination a couple of times, that what is the shape of the uterus. So you people need to know about this in detail actually. Then we'll. So uterus ultimately is going to open directly into vagina with the help of this narrow tube or a narrow tube-like structure, which is called cervix. So I have already told you the pathway, that how it goes on: uterus to cervix, cervix to vagina. All right, all these things we have discussed. Walls we have already discussed it. Now the external genitalia. Now external genitalia part was left because external genitalia is basically the part that is going to involve your vagina and all other different components. So it basically consists of five important components. That means your mons pubis, then labia majora, labia minora, and hymen and clitoris. You don't need to go in detail with all these parts, but the a little information about each of the components is very, very important. So mons pubis is basically the fatty tissue that is covered by the skin and hair. All right, mass of the fatty tissue which is covered by skin and hair. Then there is labia majora and labia minora. So labia majora is basically the continuation of the mons pubis. All right, so it's the fleshy fold of tissues that extends from the mons pubis, and it is going to cover, so extension of the mons pubis, and it's going to cover the vaginal opening. All right. The next is basically your labia minora. Labia minora is the layer which is going to precede the labia majora. So this is the pair fold-like tissues which is under the labia majora, and that this has to be noted. And then there is ultimately your hymen. Hymen, it's a kind of a membrane covering which covers the opening of vagina over here. So this basically covers up the opening of vagina. And this hymen, it's a kind of a short flap-like structure or a tissue-like structure. Since it's a membrane, so it's a kind of a tissue flat, membranous tissue-like structure that may be torn or broken during the first intercourse. All right, or it can be broken because of active participation in sports also. So it is not only an indication that it can be broken during the intercourse, but yes, if a person is involved in active participation in sports like horseback riding or cycling or gymming or any other heavy physical activity, you can say, then this hymen can be torn out. All right, so that is the case. In some women also, it even persists even after the first intercourse has been carried out. So that is the case. So this is about your this one, that means your uh, external female genitalia. And the last component basically is your clitoris. Clitoris is a kind of a finger-like projection that is just beneath the mons pubis, basically you can say, an enclosing junction of the labia minora, but just beneath the mons pubis as well, and it is above the urethral opening. All right, so this is all about your external female genitalia that we have seen. Now, let us just look into and talk about the next important component, which is basically your the mammary glands. Okay. So, mammary glands are, we have seen that mammary glands are basically the accessory glands, you can say. That is not the main component of the female external genitalia, but yes, it is an important component of the female reproductive system, because this is one such component, that has been included as an accessory glands in case of the female reproductive system. So you can see we are first going to discuss about the important things over here itself. So basically, a mammary gland, if you consider a mammary gland, then a mammary gland basically consists of two components. One is called as glandular tissue. One is considered to be as the glandular tissue, and the other is considered to be as the fats which are found in them. So you can see the variable amounts of fats found over here and the tissues which are found over here. So from this to this part, it is being included in the glandular tissue, GT. All right. So these are the two components of mammary glands. Now, when you will start with this glandular tissue starts with, or it basically comprises of around 15 to 20 mammary lobes. So you can see over here that it starts with mammary lobes, which are approximately 50 to 20 in number. All right. And these mammary lobes, they ultimately results into a cell which is called as alveolus or alveoli, you can say. So the first component comes up your mammary lobe over here. Then ultimately, it is basically your mammary alveoli over here. Now, mammary alveoli is important. So first comes up the lobe, mammary lobe. Then comes your alveoli. Now, mammary alveoli is important because this alveoli they secrete milk. They are the component that they are going to secrete milk only. So these are the cells only where the milk is being secreted. All right. Now, if the milk is secreted, then that has to be stored at some place. So the storage organ for these milk is basically your duct part. So then comes your mammary duct, or you can say the mammary tubules. Both can be said. Where the milk is actually stored. Milk is stored. Clear? Now, these mammary duct or mammary tubules ultimately leads into, this is the third component. This ultimately leads into the fourth component, which is our mammary ampulla. So this will lead to mammary ampulla. That means all the ducts and the tubules, you can see that all the ducts and the tubules over here. So mammary duct is over here. All right. And all the ducts and the tubules, they are going to connect at a point which is called as mammary ampulla over here. And mammary ampulla ultimately connects to a point which is called as lactiferous duct. So this is ultimately going to connect at a point which is called as lactiferous duct. Now lactiferous duct is important. Why? Because this is the duct through which milk is ultimately sucked up by the baby. All right. So this is how the process of, this is the fifth component. So this is how the succession of the mammary, the components of the mammary glands are there. All right. So these are all the things that we have seen. Now let us just move on to the explanation part. So as I already told you that it consists of, let me just, yeah. So it consists of glandular tissue and variable amount of fats. So it will be having 15 to 20 mammary lobes. Now mammary lobes are ultimately going to connect to another important organ, which is called as alveoli. So alveoli is the site where the milk is being secreted. Remember this. And the storage is being done in the mammary tubules itself. And these tubules are also considered to be as the mammary duct, so going to connect into mammary ducts. And they will be ultimately joining to a wider part, which is called as mammary ampulla. And ampulla is in turn connected to your, this one is in turn connected to your lactiferous duct over here, through which the milk is sucked. So mammary glands produces milk at the end of the pregnancy because of a very, very important hormone, which is called prolactin. Now, this is also very, very important. So it is because of the prolactin hormone that through which at the end of the pregnancy, the mammary gland secretes milk. So this is all about your mammary glands that we have seen and we have discussed. Now, let us proceed further with the next important topic. So up till now, we have seen the male and the female, the female reproductive system basically, all right, the different components of the female reproductive system, the location, and we have also seen the mammary glands, about its structure and different important components. All right. Now let us start with another important topic, and that is called as oogenesis. Just like in case of male reproductive system, we have seen the spermatogenesis. We will be talking about here the oogenesis process. But before going to this part, we can just move on to the flow chart that depicts the female reproductive system. Just a second. These are all the explanations actually that I have been given by me. Yeah. So this is the important topic that we were looking for. All right. So basically, we are going to first discuss this oogenesis process in detail with the flow chart first, and then the explanation part can be carried on later. See, oogenesis is one such process in which there will be formation of, oogenesis is basically the formation of your female gamete ova. So this basically involves your formation of ova. All right, and that will be through oogonial mother cell, you can say, or oogonia, you can say. So oogonial mother cell is also called as oogonia. All right, this is the case. Now, this oogonia, you will be very, very surprised to know that this oogenesis, it basically starts during the embryonic development. This starts in embryonic development itself. Yeah, this is the case. All right. But with the spermatogenesis, you have seen that spermatogenesis starts with puberty. So this is the basic difference between oogenesis and spermatogenesis. Now, oogenesis is going to start with the oogonia, which is your oogonial mother cell, we can say. All right, this is already deployed. All right, and a large number and a million number of oogonia are already formed in case of your this one in the embryo of the baby, before birth, because after birth no more oogonia is going to add. Now this is very, very important, that no more oogonia is basically added after birth. So you can just imagine that whatever the oogonia or the oogonial mother cell, OMC, is going to form, that should be formed before birth itself and during the embryonic development of the baby itself, of the girl itself, baby girl itself. So no more oogonia or oogonial mother cell is added after birth, you can say. Is added after birth. So this is a very, very important point to be noted. All right, because it has been asked also. Now, this oogonia first is going to differentiate into a cell which is called as primary oocyte. You know, oogonia are produced in many numbers, but only some of them differentiates into primary oocyte over here. So, if it is a mitosis differentiation, so you can just imagine that if oogonia is deployed, then primary oocyte will also be deployed. And if it is deployed, then the chromosome number will be 46 over here and 46 over here. This is the case. So you can see over here. So in the fetal life, as I already told you, that it is going to start up in your embryonic stage. All right. So if it is going to start up in your embryonic stage, so it is the fetal life itself over here. है ना? तो ये यहाँ से क्या करेगा कि ये जो oogonia होता है, this oogonia undergoes first the mitotic differentiation and is going to form the primary oocyte first. All right. Now, once the primary oocyte is formed, ये primary oocyte जो होता है ना, this primary oocyte arrests itself. Now, this point has to be noted that the primary oocyte actually arrests itself. जैसे ही primary oocyte ये जो oogonia primary oocyte में change हुआ, primary oocyte is going to arrest itself in which stage? In the prophase 1 stage of meiosis 1. Prophase 1 of meiosis 1 में ये अपने आप को क्या करता है? अरेस्ट कर लेगा. और जैसे ये अरेस्ट करेगा, फिर उसके बाद अरेस्ट करना क्यों जरूरी है? बिकॉज फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ मैच्योरेशन ऑफ द फॉलिकल. ये जो प्राइमरी oocyte है, ये अभी मैच्योर नहीं हुआ है, ये फॉलिकल्स में अभी इनका कन्वर्जन नहीं हुआ है. दैट्स व्हाई. सो दिस इज फर्स्ट गोइंग टू मैच्योर इटसेल्फ. फिर ये कई सारे स्टेजेस बनाता है, प्राइमरी फॉलिकल, सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल, टर्शियरी फॉलिकल, एंड देन अल्टीमेटली ये फिर जब डिवाइड करता है, so this ultimately give rise to this undergoes from the birth till the puberty. You can see this process is being taken place. First meiotic division तक ये arrest रहता है from birth till puberty. जैसे puberty आएगा और ये primary oocyte follicles में change हो जाते हैं, then ultimately the process of first meiotic division gets completed prior to ovulation. All right, and it is going to divide to give rise to first polar body and secondary oocyte. ये unequal division है, ठीक है. ये बेसिकली आपका एक अनइक्वल डिवीजन होता है. यहाँ पे देख सकते हो, फर्स्ट पोलर बॉडी छोटा है, सेकेंडरी oocyte जो है वो थोड़ा बड़ा है. सो दिस इज एन अनइक्वल डिवीजन, एंड सिंस दिस इज द मियोटिक डिवीजन, तो यहाँ पर हमारा ऑटोमेटिकली क्रोमोसोम नंबर हाफ हो जाएगा. सो दिस विल बी 23 ओवर हियर. और फिर उसके बाद ड्यूरिंग द एडल्ट एंड रिप्रोडक्टिव फेज यू विल बी सीइंग दैट दिस सेकेंडरी oocyte only is going to get transformed into ova. ये जो सेकेंडरी oocyte होता है, सिंस दिस इज न्यूट्रिएंट रिजर्व्ड फील्ड, ये पूरा न्यूट्रिएंट रिच होता है. इट इज हैविंग न्यूट्रिएंट रिच साइटोप्लाज्म, तो ये अल्टीमेटली मेच्योर हो जाता है. दिस मेच्योर्स इनटू the tertiary follicle, which is the secondary oocyte is basically found in the tertiary follicle. ये ना tertiary follicle में होता है. अब आप पूछोगे कि ये tertiary follicle कहाँ से आया, तो वो भी मैं आपको सारी प्रोसेस बताऊँ. Alright, we will be discussing all those components in the description section part. Alright, तो ये जो secondary oocyte which is found in the tertiary follicle, this is now going to mature, क्योंकि ये nutrient rich cytoplasm का होता है ना, so this is now going to mature into Graafian follicle. ये ultimately अपने आप को Graafian follicle में mature कर लेता है, and of course this gets converted, और Graafian follicle में जब change हो गया तो ये ovulation process के through ovum को release कर देगा. So ovum is nothing but ovum actually represent करता है secondary oocyte को ही. ठीक है, ओवम सेकेंडरी oocyte को ही रिप्रेजेंट करता है. सो दिस इज समथिंग, क्योंकि वो मैच्योर हो चुका है, सो दिस ओवम इज गोइंग टू रिलीज और वो फिर से, एंड दिस विल अंडरगो द प्रोसेस ऑफ सेकंड मेयोटिक डिवीजन. सो सेकंड मेयोटिक डिवीजन भी आप देख सकते हैं, तो सेकंड मेयोटिक डिवीजन भी अनइक्वल है, तो उसमें सेकंड पोलर बॉडी बनता है और ओवम. दिस विल आल्सो बी 20. ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज द केस. सो दिस इज अबाउट योर प्रोसेस. यहाँ पर थोड़ा मैंने डिटेल में बता दिया है स्कीमेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन. दिस इज जस्ट योर, ये आपके एनसीईआरटी का ही पार्ट है, सो दिस इज जस्ट गोइंग टू हेल्प यू आउट इन अ मोर बेटर लर्निंग में. तो वही सारी चीज़ें मैंने आपको बताई थी. व्हाट एवर द थिंग्स दैट वी हैव डिस्कस्ड प्रीवियसली, वही सारी चीज़ें हैं. यहाँ पे आपका ओगोनियम है, ओगोनियम से प्राइमरी oocyte, देन दिस गिव राइज टू सेकेंडरी oocyte एंड फर्स्ट पोलर बॉडी. फिर उससे आपका ओवम बना, ओव्यूलेशन से ओवम आपका रिलीज हो जाएगा, एंड देन अल्टीमेटली फर्टिलाइजेशन विल take place. All right. Now, the next important point to note over here is that process of oogenesis पे हम बात कर रहे हैं. Now, इसमें मैंने आपको बताया कि जो oogenesis का process, जो oogonia होता है ना, ये प्राइमरी oocyte बनाता है, and ultimately ये आपका एंटर करेगा प्रोफेज 1 ऑफ द meiosis 1 में, जो मैंने आपको अभी एक्सप्लेन किया, एंड टेम्पररीली जाके वहां पे अरेस्ट हो जाता है. सो आई हैव रिटन ओवर हियर कि दोनों का डिप्लॉयड होता है. ठीक है, अब क्योंकि अरेस्ट हो चुका है, सो दिस प्राइमरी oocyte, ये जो प्राइमरी oocyte होता है ना, प्राइमरी oocyte में ना ग्रैन्युलोसा सेल्स का डिपोजिशन शुरू हो जाता है उसके अराउंड में. प्राइमरी oocyte के सेकेंड में जब ग्रैन्युलोसा सेल्स का डिपोजिशन होगा ना, तो वो पहले प्राइमरी फॉलिकल बनाएगा, फिर उसके बाद सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल बनाता है, एंड अल्टीमेटली टर्शियरी फॉलिकल बनाता है. टर्शियरी फॉलिकल इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, क्यों? क्योंकि टर्शियरी फॉलिकल के दो फीचर्स होते हैं. एक तो होता है इनमें एंट्रम, विच इज द फ्लूइड फिल्ड कैविटी, और दूसरा होता है कि ये दो जर्म लेयर्स बना देते हैं, थीका इंटरना एंड थीका एक्सटर्ना. थीका लेयर्स बनाते हैं, आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन पार्ट में सब कुछ मिल जाएगा. तो ये थीका लेयर्स बनाते हैं, विच इज योर थीका इंटरना एंड थीका एक्सटर्ना. थीका इंटरना इंपॉर्टेंट इसलिए है क्योंकि वो एक हार्मोन रिलीज करता है, विच विल बी डिस्कसिंग इन द कमिंग स्लाइड्स. ऑलराइट, सो दैट इज द केस. ठीक है, ये चीज हो जाएगा. Now there's a phenomena that has been written over here which is called as atrasia. So atrasia is one such phenomenon जिसमें कि मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बताया कि जनरेट होने को तो बहुत फॉलिकल्स जनरेट होते हैं, बट ऑल दोज फॉलिकल्स आर नॉट एक्चुअली रिक्वायर्ड. दे गेट degenerated between birth and puberty. So this process is ultimately called as atrasia, and at the end हमें सिर्फ और सिर्फ 60 to 80,000 primary follicles ही ओवरी में मिले. So this is the case. So this is about your oogenesis 1. oogenesis में लास्ट में जैसे मैंने आपको एंट्रम के बारे में बताया, दैट इज थीका इंटरना, थीका एक्सटर्ना के बारे में बताया, और फिर जैसे ही प्राइमरी oocyte टर्शियरी फॉलिकल में आया, इट इज गोइंग टू कंप्लीट द फर्स्ट मेयोटिक डिवीजन एंड इट इज गोइंग टू रिलीज दीज फर्स्ट पोलर बॉडी, सेकेंडरी oocyte, एंड सेकेंडरी oocyte क्योंकि ये सारे न्यूट्रिएंट रिच साइटोप्लाज्म को कंटेन करके रखता है, दैट्स व्हाई दिस इज गोइंग टू मैच्योर एंड डेवलप इनटू ग्राफियन फॉलिकल ओवर हियर, है ना, इसमें चेंज. और फिर अल्टीमेटली वो ग्राफियन फॉलिकल ओव्यूलेशन प्रोसेस के थ्रू ओवम को, विच इज योर सेकेंडरी oocyte, उसको वो रिलीज कर देगा. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट योर oogenesis का प्रोसेस दैट वी हैव सीन एंड डिस्कस्ड. नाउ सो बेसिकली यू कैन सी ओवर हियर द क्रॉस सेक्शन ऑफ द ओवरी बीइंग रिप्रेजेंटेड, है ना, आपको ये दिख रहा है. तो इसमें मैंने आपको ओवरी का स्ट्रोमा, ओवेरियन स्ट्रोमा का पेरिफेरल कॉर्टेक्स एंड मेडुला के बारे में ऑलरेडी बता दिया था, दिस वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन। और ये जो पार्ट आपको दिख रहा है, लेट मी जस्ट गिव यू अ ओवरव्यू आइडिया, ब्रीफ आइडिया, कि ये जो आपको फॉलिकल्स दिख रहे हैं ये सारे डेवलपिंग फॉलिकल्स है ना, जिसमें आपका प्राइमरी फॉलिकल, सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल और टर्शियरी फॉलिकल्स आएगा। दिस वन बिकम्स योर टर्शियरी फॉलिकल। ये आपका, ये डेवलपिंग फॉलिकल्स हैं, तो डेवलपिंग फॉलिकल्स में प्राइमरी है और सेकेंडरी है, ये दो प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल है इसमें, ठीक है। ये यहाँ से डेवलप करते हुए यहाँ पर गए, यहाँ से डेवलप करते हुए यहाँ पर आए, ठीक है। दिस बिकम्स योर टर्शियरी फॉलिकल ओवर हियर। क्यों? क्योंकि अब इसमें लेयरिंग्स जो है थीका इंटरना, थीका एक्सटर्ना में ये डिवाइड हो जाएगा, और इसमें यू कैन सी द एंट्रम ओवर हियर, ये दिख रहा होगा आपको, ये एक आपको स्पेस दिखेगा यहाँ पे, दिस बिकम्स योर एंट्रम, है ना, और ये आपकी लेयर्स, थीका लेयर्स हो जाएंगे। इसका मैंने एक फिगर भी बनाया हुआ है इन डिटेल, सो यू कैन गो थ्रू ऑल दोस थिंग्स। थीका लेयर्स हो जाएंगे। तो थीका इंटरना जो होता है वो बेसिकली आपका एस्ट्रोजन हार्मोन को रिलीज करता है, ठीक है, थीका इंटरनल है। तो ये चीज हो गया। फिर उसके बाद ये जो होता है, दिस इज गोइंग टू चेंज इनटू ग्राफियन फॉलिकल ओवर हियर। तो ये वाला जो हमें दिख रहा है ना, ये वाला हमारा ग्राफियन फॉलिकल हो गया, और इसके अंदर जो ये आपको दिख रहा है, ये मैं बता दूं यहाँ पे, टर्शियरी फॉलिकल के जो ये अंदर में दिख रहा है, दिस इज बेसिकली योर सेकेंडरी oocyte, दिस इज योर सेकेंडरी oocyte। तो जैसे क्योंकि सेकेंडरी oocyte न्यूट्रिएंट रिच साइटोप्लाज्म का होता है, तो दिस इज गोइंग टू गेट कन्वर्टेड इनटू ग्राफियन फॉलिकल ओवर हियर। ये जो ग्राफियन फॉलिकल है, अब इसमें होगा क्या, अल्टीमेटली दिस इज गोइंग टू अंडरगो द प्रोसेस ऑफ ओव्यूलेशन। तो जब इसमें ओव्यूलेशन होगा, तो ये ओवम को बाहर की तरफ रिलीज कर दिया है, ओवम रिलीज आउटसाइड, ठीक है, और अंदर की तरफ सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक रिमेनिंग्स बच जाते हैं ग्राफियन फॉलिकल के, है ना, ओवम रिलीज हो चुका है और सिर्फ ये रिमेनिंग्स है। तो ये जो आपको दिख रहा है, these are ultimately the remainings of graphian follicle. So remainings of graphian follicle. Now these remainings of graphian follicle is ultimately called as corpus luteum. इसको corpus luteum बोलते हैं, ठीक है। So this is the case, which is a yellow mass body structure. ये एक येलो मास का स्ट्रक्चर होता है जो कि प्रोजेस्टेरॉन हार्मोन को रिलीज करता है ड्यूरिंग द प्रेगनेंसी। जब प्रेगनेंसी होगा तब ये प्रोजेस्टेरॉन रिलीज होगा, प्रेगनेंसी अगर नहीं होगा, फर्टिलाइजेशन नहीं होगा, तो ये प्रोजेस्टेरॉन रिलीज नहीं। सो दिस इज द केस ओवर हियर। तो रप्चरिंग हो चुकी है सारी चीजें, तो यू कैन सी ये जो कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम मैंने आपको बताया, दिस इज ओवर हियर। So this is the entire structure which is showing you the entire process of oogenesis. All right, आगे अगर हम बढ़े तो इसका मैंने डिटेल में बनाया हुआ है, see you can see over here, ठीक है, पूरा प्राइमरी से सेकेंडरी, सेकेंडरी से टर्शियरी, यू कैन सी दिख सकता है। प्राइमरी मैंने थोड़ा शॉर्ट में लिखा है so that all the figures can be included. TF, SF, TF indicates your primary follicle, secondary follicle, tertiary follicle. थीका इंटरना, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, it is going to secrete your estrogen hormone. This is very very important. And जो आपका germ hill और discus proligerus है, this is your cells which are going to connect the secondary oocyte with the theca. तो ये होते हैं, ठीक है। फिर ये आपका ग्राफियन फॉलिकल हो गया, ये GF हो गया, यहाँ पे दिख रहा होगा आपको। तो ये जो ग्राफियन फॉलिकल है ट्राई लेयर्ड हो जाता है अल्टीमेटली जाके कोरोना रेडिएटर, क्योंकि ये ओवम को रिलीज करेगा, ओवरी हो चुका है ये, so that's fine. So corona radiata, zona pellucida and vital in membrane, and ultimately इसमें आपको ये oocyte यहाँ पे सेकेंडरी oocyte और ओवम रिलीज हो चुका है, ठीक है। This becomes your corpus luteum, जिसके बारे में हम ये जो रिमेनिंग्स है ग्राफियन फॉलिकल के, that has changes into this one. Corpus luteum आपका प्रोजेस्टेरॉन को रिलीज करेगा, so this is the case. In case अगर वो corpus luteum में चेंज नहीं होता है, तो वो कभी कभी क्या होता है कि जो रिमेनिंग्स होते हैं ना ग्राफियन फॉलिकल के, दैट चेंजेस इनटू अ वाइट मास स्ट्रक्चर व्हिच इज कॉल्ड एज कॉर्पस एल्बिकन्स। तो कॉर्पस एल्बिकन्स जो होते हैं ये व्हाइट मास के स्ट्रक्चर होते हैं और कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम जो होते हैं वो येलो मास के स्ट्रक्चर होते हैं. सो दिस वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग अबाउट कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम एंड ऑल दीज थिंग्स इन द कमिंग लेसन्स एज वेल. ये तो अभी सिर्फ मैंने स्ट्रक्चर बताया है, तो इसके बारे में डिटेल हम आने वाले लेक्चर्स में भी स्टडी करेंगे. ऑलराइट, now so this was all about your structure of ovary and all those things. All right, okay, so let us just take a quick recap of whatever the things that we have seen and discussed. So we have gone through the female reproductive system. एक बार मैं आपको बता देती हूँ फिर से, so that it will be easier. Yeah. So we have seen the entire female reproductive system. हम लोगों ने ये देखा, ठीक है, different components देखे, उसका function देखा, along with all the notes and everything. Apart from this, we have seen the mammary glands as well. हम लोगों ने mammary glands का पूरा structure देखा कि किस तरीके से organized होता है, why it is important and everything. वो सारी चीजें हो गई. Then we have seen the process of oogenesis as well. Oogenesis का process देखा. तो उसमें we have basically seen the schematic oogenesis, है ना. इसमें हम लोगों ने oogenesis देख लिया. And lastly, we have seen the structure of the ovary का cross section. So we have covered up your entire human female reproductive system. All right. Now let us start with the question parts now. Just a moment. Yeah. So the very first important question says that which refer to the given diagram and select the option that correctly defines the label part. तो ये तो अभी हम लोगों ने देखा ही इसको, ठीक है. तो let us just go on with it कि कौन सा correct part है. So A is representing ampulla. A ampulla को represent कर रहा है and it is the site of blastocyst implantation. So this is wrong. All right. A is basically your infundibulum. All right, पहली बात तो. और ये blastocyst implantation तो कराता ही नहीं. So this is practically your wrong answer. All right, so this is your wrong. B की अगर हम बात करें तो B is your fimbri and it is responsible for collecting the ova. So yes, this B becomes your fimbri हो जाएगा. ये आपका fimbri का part है, ठीक है, जो कि infundibulum को succeed करता है and precede करता है and it collects ova. So this is right. Then C becomes your myometrium. ये वाला जो सी वाला पार्ट आपको दिख रहा है उसको मायोमेट्रियम बोल रहे हैं. सो दिस इज रॉन्ग. सी इज बेसिकली योर पेरीमेट्रियम. सी वाला जो पार्ट आपको दिख रहा है, जस्ट अ सेकंड, सी इज योर पेरीमेट्रियम. ऑलराइट. C is basically your perimetrium. Then comes your, so this is also wrong. All right. Then D is your ovary. So ovary is going to secrete HCG. So D ovary to hai, ठीक है, but it is not going to secrete HCG because HCG is human chorionic gonadotropin hormone that is actually released by placenta. So this is ultimately released by, this is ultimately released by placenta. तो हमारा जो सही ऑप्शन है वो ऑप्शन बी हो जाएगा. तो इसमें हमारा जो करेक्ट ऑप्शन है दैट इज गोइंग टू बी योर बी. ठीक है. मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट ऑप्शन क्वेश्चन. Now milk is secreted from the cells of alveoli of mammary lobes. All right, reaches the nipple through lactiferous duct, mammary duct, mammary tubule, and mammary ampulla in the following order. Now you have to look into the order. तो order की जब हम बात करते हैं तो ऑर्डर में हमारा सबसे पहला जो कंपोनेंट आता है वो हो जाएगा आपका मैमरी लोब्स का, क्योंकि मैमरी लोब्स यहाँ दिया नहीं है तो हम लोग उसको इंक्लूड नहीं करेंगे. मैमरी लोब्स के बाद एल्वियोलाई था, एल्वियोलाई भी यहाँ पे मेंशन्ड नहीं. ऑलराइट. एल्वियोलाई के बाद अल्टीमेटली आपका मैमरी ट्यूब्यूल आता है विच इज योर टी. ठीक है, मैमरी ट्यूब्यूल हो जाएगा. मैमरी ट्यूब्यूल के बाद हम लोगों ने देखा था कि इट वाज पूरा का पूरा जो मैमरी ट्यूब्यूल होता है दैट इज गोइंग टू कलेक्ट इनटू mammary ampulla. तो mammary ampulla यहाँ पे हो जाएगा and this is ultimately going to go into your this one. Sorry, just a second. एक minute. Yeah. So the first will be your mammary tubule over here. ठीक है, तो पहला तो हमारा चलो ये हो गया, ठीक। तो हमारा सीक्वेंस जो होता है तो इट स्टार्ट्स विथ लोब, लोब के बाद अल्टीमेटली इट गोज टू योर एल्वियोलाई, ठीक है, जो कि ये दोनों तो ऑलराइट। एल्वियोलाई के बाद अल्टीमेटली हमारा जो आता है वो हो जाएगा ट्यूब्यूलर डक्ट। So this is going to be a tubule or duct over here, ठीक है, ये हो गया। इसके बाद फिर अल्टीमेटली हमारा आ जाएगा मैमरी डक्ट। सो मैमरी ट्यूब्यूल हो गया, मैमरी डक्ट हो गया, ठीक है। सो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी योर एम, ये सीक्वेंस हो गया। इसके बाद अल्टीमेटली हमारा आता है एम्प्यूला। एम्प्यूला के बाद फिर अल्टीमेटली आएगा, just give me, तो इसके बाद अल्टीमेटली हमारा मैमरी एम्प्यूला आ जाएगा एंड एम्प्यूला के बाद अल्टीमेटली हमारा लैक्टिफेरस डक्ट आता है। सो दिस इज द केस। तो हमारा जो सीक्वेंस हो जाएगा वो टी एम ए एल, दिस इज द सीक्वेंस व्हिच इज गोइंग टू फॉर्म। ऑलराइट, ये हो जाएगा सीक्वेंस। नाउ मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन। Now, at which stage of life is oogenesis initiated in a human female? So this is a very very important question और ये मैंने आपको अभी बताया था oogenesis के प्रोसेस में कि oogenesis जो होता है वो कैसे डिफर करता है स्पर्मेटोजेनेसिस से, क्योंकि oogenesis जो होता है दिस स्टार्ट्स ड्यूरिंग प्यूबर्टी, ये प्यूबर्टी में ही शुरू हो जाता है। Unlike spermatogenesis that begins at puberty, during the embryonic development, oogenesis जो होता है वो initiate हो जाता है, but unlike the spermatogenesis that begins at puberty, तो puberty में आपका spermatogenesis शुरू होता है। This basically, all right, this is the case. So इसमें आपका ऑप्शन डी हो जाएगा। Now moving on to the next question, which is in ovary we can find all these structures. Okay, इसमें ऑप्शन दिया हुआ है और इसमें बोल रहा है कि क्या ओवरी में हमें ये सारे स्ट्रक्चर्स मिलेंगे। तो ओवरी में भाई हमें प्राइमरी फॉलिकल मिलता है, यस वी हैव सीन दैट, अभी मैंने आपको स्ट्रक्चर दिखाया था तो उसमें ओवरी में हमें सारी चीजें मिली थी। सो लेट अस जस्ट गो बैक, मैं आपको एक बार फिर से दिखा देती हूँ कि ओवरी का क्रॉस सेक्शन में हमें क्या क्या दिखा था। तो ओवरी के, एक मिनट, तो ओवरी के क्रॉस सेक्शन में हमें प्राइमरी फॉलिकल भी दिखा था, सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल भी दिखा, टर्शियरी फॉलिकल भी दिखा, देन उसके बाद आपका ग्राफियन फॉलिकल दिखा, ब्लड वेजल्स मैंने आपको ऑलरेडी बता ही दिया था, ये सारे ब्लड वेजल्स हैं। तो ये सारे कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम, कॉर्पस एल्बिकन्स, ये सब सारी चीजें हमें दिखी। नाउ वी कैन जस्ट गो बैक एंड मूव ऑन टू द क्वेश्चन पार्ट। So ovary में can we find ovary में can we find primary follicle? Yes. Can we find Graafian follicle? Yes. Blood vessel? Yes. And corpus luteum? Yes. So इसमें आपका ऑप्शन B हो जाएगा, जिसमें 1, 2, 3 and 4 हमें सब मिलते हैं। Now which one is actually released from the ovary? ये क्वेश्चन अगर हम देखें कौन सा स्ट्रक्चर ओवरी से हमें रिलीज होता है। So it is your primary oocyte? No. प्राइमरी oocyte कभी भी रिलीज नहीं होता। सेकेंडरी oocyte? Yes, क्योंकि सेकेंडरी oocyte को हम ओवम भी बोलते हैं। तो दिस इज अल्टीमेटली रिलीज्ड वाया रप्चरिंग ऑफ द ग्राफियन फॉलिकल, है ना। तो ग्राफियन फॉलिकल कभी भी रिलीज होता है? नो, ठीक है। oogoneum? नो। तो इसमें हमारा जो ऑप्शन हो जाएगा वो हो गया आपका ऑप्शन बी, ऑप्शन बी हो जाएगा, ठीक है। मूविंग अहेड, अब इसमें पूछ रहा है कि कौन सा पार्ट है ओवरी का मैमल्स में जो कि एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड की तरह फंक्शन करता है आफ्टर ओव्यूलेशन। ऑलराइट, सो दिस इज आल्सो वेरी वेरी यूनिक एंड इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन, एक तरीके से बोल सकते हैं। तो कौन सा पार्ट है? जो कि एंडोक्राइन ग्लैंड की तरह फंक्शन करेगा ओव्यूलेशन। तो स्ट्रोमा में अगर हम देखेंगे तो स्ट्रोमा बेसिकली कंसिस्ट ऑफ कॉर्टेक्स एंड मेडुला, तो ये तो पूरे पार्ट को इंक्लूड कर ले रहा है ओवरी के, सो ओवरऑल पार्ट को ले ले रहा है, सो दिस वोंट बी दी ऑप्शन, ठीक है, ये तो होगा नहीं। वाइटलिन मेम्ब्रेन हम लोगों ने ऐसा कुछ सुना ही नहीं है अभी, सो इसको भी कट कर देते हैं। बट बचता आपका जर्मिनल एपिथेलियम। जर्मिनल एपिथेलियम जो है ये कवरिंग है ओवरी का, तो क्योंकि ये कवरिंग है ओवरी का तो इससे कोई भी आपका हार्मोन रिलीज नहीं होगा, इट वोंट एक्ट एज अ ग्लैंड। ग्राफियन फॉलिकल कर सकता है, क्योंकि जब रप्चरिंग थी हुई थी ग्राफियन फॉलिकल की, तो वो बनाता है जो रिमेनिंग्स जो मैंने आपको बताया वो हो जाएगा आपका कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम। तो जब रिमेनिंग्स कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम बनाते हैं तो ये कॉर्पस ल्यूटियम जो हार्मोन रिलीज करेगा वो हो जाएगा क्या, प्रोजेस्टेरॉन। दैट हार्मोन इज अल्टीमेटली कॉल्ड प्रोजेस्टेरॉन। इसलिए हमारा जो ऑप्शन करेक्ट है वो हो जाएगा ऑप्शन डी, व्हिच इज द प्रेगनेंसी हार्मोन, ठीक है। If we're going to look into this part, like match the column हमें करना है, ठीक है। तो इसमें अगर आप देखेंगे कि 2 columns have been given, column 1 and column 2, ठीक है। तो एक्रोसोम की मैचिंग जो होगी वो डेफिनेटली हमारा स्पर्मेटोजोआ से हो जाएगा, ठीक है। एंडोमेट्रियम का कंपोनेंट जो होगा वो डेफिनेटली यूट्रस का कंपोनेंट है। पोलर बॉडी इज फाउंड इन oogenesis 1 and clitoris is the rudimentary erectile tissue। इसमें अगर हम देखेंगे तो A का 4 हो गया, देन B का आपका हो जाएगा 2, B का 2, सो दिस इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन। A का 4, B का 2, C का 3 आप देख लीजिए, पोलर बॉडी oogenesis, and D का 1। सो दिस इज द मैचिंग, मैच द कॉलम क्वेश्चन, ठीक है। अब ये वाला क्वेश्चन अगर हम देखें तो हमें इसमें करेक्ट मैच बताना है कि कौन सा सेल हेप्लॉइड है और कौन सा सेल अल्टीमेटली डिप्लॉइड, ठीक है। सेकेंडरी oocyte, सेकेंडरी oocyte भाई हमारा क्या होता है, दिस इज योर अल्टीमेटली हेप्लॉइड, तो ठीक है ये तो करेक्ट हो गया है ना। प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट इज इट डिप्लॉइड, यस, प्राइमरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट जो होता है ये डिप्लॉइड होता है, तो ठीक है। सेकेंडरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट की बात करेंगे तो ये आपका हेप्लॉइड होता है, yes, alright, so secondary spermatocyte जो होगा वो हमारा हेप्लॉइड हो जाएगा। सेकेंडरी oocyte की बात करेंगे, क्या वो डिप्लॉइड होता है, नहीं, हम लोगों ने देखा था कि सेकेंडरी oocyte में 23 नंबर ऑफ क्रोमोसोम्स होते हैं, तो ये डिप्लॉइड है, सो दिस ऑप्शन इज रॉन्ग क्योंकि ये डिप्लॉइड बता दिया है। प्राइमरी oocyte इज हेप्लॉइड, रॉन्ग, क्योंकि प्राइमरी oocyte जो होता है वो होता है डिप्लॉइड। सेकेंडरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट इज डिप्लॉइड, रॉन्ग, सेकेंडरी स्पर्मेटोसाइट इज हेप्लॉइड। ठीक है। ovum is haploid, yes, ovum is haploid, just a moment, and spermatid is diploid, no, spermatids जो होते हैं वो अल्टीमेटली आपका स्पर्म्स में डेवलप करते हैं, तो दिस इज ऑल्सो, तो इसमें हमारा जो ऑप्शन सही होगा वो हो जाएगा ऑप्शन ए। सो दिस इज हाउ यू हैव टू डील विद द क्वेश्चंस, कंटेंट को फोकस में रखते हुए यू आर गोइंग टू डील विद दैट, ऑलराइट। नाउ द नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन सेज दैट द फीमेल एक्सटर्नल जेनिटालिया इंक्लूड्स, सो ये अभी हम लोगों ने पढ़ा देखा भी कि वो कौन कौन से कंपोनेंट को इंक्लूड करेगा। ओवरी, नो, ये तो बिल्कुल भी नो है क्योंकि ये तो आता ही नहीं है उसमें। देन देयर इज मैमरी ग्लैंड्स, mons pubis, clitoris and your labia majora, labia majora, yes। तो इसमें हमारा ऑप्शंस में क्या हो जाएगा, ऑप्शंस विल बेसिकली इंक्लूड योर क्लिटोरिस, मैमरी ग्लैंड्स हमारे एक्सेसरी ग्लैंड्स में आते हैं, ठीक है, तो ये हो जाएगा। तो इसमें हमारा जो ऑप्शन में होगा वो हो जाएगा 3, 4 and 5। दिस मीन्स mons pubis, clitoris and labia majora, so 3, 4 and 5 is the correct option, all right, so iska hi now the next question and the last question says that Bartholin glands are homologous to, ये शुरू होने से पहले ही मैंने आपको एक्सप्लेन किया था कि Bartholin glands जो होते हैं they are homologous to undoubtedly bulbourethral glands which are found in case of the male reproductive system, क्योंकि इनका भी काम सिक्रीशन का होता है, so that lubrication ये प्रोवाइड कर पाए। So this is the case. तो इसका undoubtedly आपका bulbourethral glands हो जाएगा, ठीक है. So this is all about your female reproductive system that we have discussed. Hope you have all liked it. All right. So next lecture में हम लोग फिर एक new topic के साथ आएंगे, and we will discuss the entire things and content in detail with very, very new models, of course, and we are going to discuss all those things. Thank you for watching, and thank you very much.